Welcome to the first actual episode of my podcast. Today, I will be talking about which Slipknot albums I like and which I don't, and why. I will also be talking about probably all sorts of shit in between, and I will get sidetracked a lot, and it will be hard for me to stay focused. I will also share with you an exclusive, awesome, never before heard audio music track, which me and a friend did 8 years ago drunk. It's about wheelchairs. It's called Wheelchair Warfare. I know, but you're gonna have to to keep your head cool, your horse is cool for that one. That's a fucking expression probably somewhere in the world. But yeah, I think I'll play that one last for you because it's the worst part of the podcast and the part that no one fucking cares about nor wants to hear. So once you get past all the other shit, stick around for Wheelchair Warfare. And if I may say so myself, it's pretty damn brutal and cool. I'll probably go through the lyrics beforehand, so just to you know what a monumental piece of art that song is. Anyway, without further ado, let me give you some adieus. Now, I've been thinking of feverishly about what should my first podcast be about, because I'm trying to think what would people actually want to hear me talk about. And one common thread that I hear or that I know of in the people that follow my content or follow me on YouTube is that they're all fans of Slipknot, and they know I'm a fan of Slipknot. That's not going to change. They can release 45 shitty albums from now until 2195, and I won't care. I'll still be a Slipknot fan because of the quality of their music early on, and because of how super important it was to me back then, and they were as a band. So why not gab on about their albums at length? Because that's probably something that I am good at, although I've never really done it. So this is a fun experiment for me as well, just to see how prolific I can get talking about albums that are 20 years old. Okay, starting off, here's the list of all the albums, 9.0 and MFKR included. So what do we have? Well, we have the live album 9.0. We have Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat. Those are arguably not part of the main discography, so now there I've mentioned them. But then chronologically, we have the self-titled album, we have Iowa, we have Volume 3, of course, All Hope Is Gone, The Great Chapter, and We Are Not Your Kind. So those are the albums. I have a little chart here in front of me, and when I say chart, what I really mean is I have a notepad file open here. So I'm gonna drag around and arrange all these different titles while I'm brainstorming for this. And just so you know, I have not prepared for this in any way. I have done zero preparation mentally or physically in the form of pulling up files or fucking information or text and stuff or writing anything down. Fuck that. I'm winging it over here. Anyway, so when it comes to what's the least good Slipknot album of all these, which is the one, which is straight up the worst one and that I never ever listened to, it is without a doubt the live album 9.0. To me, that album is unlistenable due to Corey Taylor's terrible vocals. I believe the album was released in 2005, so most likely the performances were recorded in probably late 2004, early 2005 during that Volume 3 tour, which is fine, which is all good, but during the recording sessions of Volume 3, Corey's voice was notoriously shot. He ruined his voice, to put it bluntly, and his approach to screaming just straight up changed because his voice went through some stuff. I don't really know what it's about. He's dodged the topic, really. Whenever people have talked about it online or asked him say during one of his book tours or acoustic shows or whatever, when he answers questions. There's one pretty famous clip, I think, where I actually forget what his answer is, but basically someone asks him, hey, why did you change up your screaming style or sound after Iowa and before Volume 3? And he gave some weird answer. He basically didn't say, oh, it's because my voice just couldn't do it anymore. I think it was more along the lines of, yeah, I just quit drinking, or I just wanted to try something different. I forget. But anyway, the huge fucking elephant in the room of 9.0 is that Corey's vocals at that point during that tour were so fucking terrible and so hoarse that they just ruined the entire album. The production's fine, but also I'm talking about 9.0 here, the live album. I hate the way the drums are produced. They sound so incredibly plasticky and tinny. Not even tinny, just straight up plasticky. Just like, oh God, you'll have to listen to it yourself to know what I'm talking about. But it's just, all in all, it's a very unpleasant listening experience. The performances are tight, which is a shame because the production just kills it for me. And the vocals are just fucking unbearably bad. At that point, when this live album was released, I was coming off of my Slipknot fandom, which had already started happening back when Volume 3 was released, but I'll get back to that when I actually talk about that album. So I was able to fairly objectively listen to this album. I wasn't blinded by fandom. It wasn't great simply because it was a Slipknot release. I was very critical of it because it just sounded like shit to me, objectively speaking. And yeah, I've probably since it was released, and I suffered through it a couple times, gave it a spin here and there when I walked home from school after fucking skipping class or whatever. I've maybe gone back to it as a curiosity a couple of times, but it's just, there's zero enjoyability in that album for me. It's nah. So that's my least favorite Slipknot album. I think, you know what? I think I will save Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat for last, because it's not, to be fair, to be honest, it's not really, you can't really hold it up against the rest of these big albums. It's a demo recorded with different personnel. The band was a different thing back then. I'll maybe, talk about that album later on as a bonus thing. Okay, so that's 9.0, the worst album to me by far. It's not, it's just, luckily it's just air quotes, a live album. So it's, maybe that doesn't count either. So it's fine. It doesn't matter that it's fucking terrible. Okay. But which one is my least favorite out of all the actual studio albums? That will have to be, without a doubt, without a single fucking doubt. And I'm saying this like I'd hate the album. It sounds like it when I put it like that, but I don't. I just know that I don't like this album that much. That would be All Hope Is Gone. All Hope Is Gone is the least favorite of my Slipknot studio albums. It came out at a time where too much time had passed after Volume 3. There was the whole debacle with Corey's voice being shit that affected it too. Effectively, Slipknot had kind of pushed me away with their performances lacking in quality. The individual performances of both Corey and Joey Jordison. Joey he just shit the bed hard time after Volume 3. By All Hope Is Gone, Joey's performances and his writing and there was none of the innovation from the first album. I want to say that Joey, throughout Slipknot's discography that he was playing on, he got progressively less and less innovative. How the fuck do you pronounce that word? Innovative. Maybe? Anyway, he got less and less. Sorry, I had a fucking aneurysm. He got less and less imaginative with his creative. That's a good word. He got less and less creative about his playing specifically about how he wrote the drum parts. Super imaginative, creative on the first album, extremely tightly pulled off. Also, it's a slight downgrade from that during Iowa, and again a slight downgrade to on Volume 3, up until the point where at All Hope Is Gone, he was just shitting out drum parts. Not even there's zero interesting anything drum wise on that album, so that sucks. But that album came out at a time where I just sort of knew that, okay, I'm not into this band anymore. And I was also, I was 20 years old. So I was at the age of being a big boy now. I don't need my baby's first Slipknot. Now I'm a big boy. This is ridiculous. This is the music that I listened to when I was 12. Not even. Wait. Well, I mean, I'm not far off. Whatever. This is the music that I listened to when I was a teenager. How fucking lame. Now I just listen to brutal metal. Fuck Slipknot. I had a slight case of that going on, but also just because with each album, they kind of lost me more and more. But All Hope Is Gone has good moments on it. Of course it does. I'm going to have to look up the track listing here to All Hope Is Gone. What do we have? Well, it starts off with Execute, which is just like 2 minutes of that just uncreative drumming. To be fair, it's not that bad compared to the rest of the album, but it's just an intro track. It's also the first intro track on a Slipknot album that was not cool to me in a way anyway. And after that, I've never heard anyone say this song out loud, say the song's name out loud, and I've never done it myself. Gematria? Gematria? The Killing Name? No idea. I've never uttered that word aloud. That song is rad. That song is fucking dope. Straight up. That's a really, really tight song. So many cool riffs, cool vocals. Oh, and by the way, after Corey's voice was fucking garbage during 9.0, it was so nice to have, because I was dreading that it was gonna be that shit that he was doing at that point in Slipknot's tour cycle and so forth. I was dreading that this whole album, the next Slipknot album, All Hope Is Gone, would be that sort of screaming. But no, he changed his stuff up, and people gave him a lot of shit for it. I did not understand for 5 seconds how people were bitching and moaning over the fact that, he changed up his scream. It sounds retarded now. Yeah, it fucking changed it from Iowa, but did all those people miss how fucking bad his voice was for several years after Iowa, before All Hope Was Gone? Anyway, so, yeah. That Gematria, really, really cool song. Sulfur, I like that song. It's also good. It has a great chorus, a cool solo. But then, on Psychosocial, I like that song as well. It has a really strong chorus. When Corey goes into strong melodic choruses, they are very strong and very melodic. But then you have stuff like Dead Memories. That is just that song was worthless to me. I know it's a fan favorite, but it's also very, very fucking the Dead Memories side of Slipknot. I don't want any of that. I've never wanted any of that in my Slipknot. I wanted the chaos, the anger, the fucked up sort of like ballady stuff. And it's like, yeah, you can argue that. Oh, but it's edgy, dark subject matter. I don't care because it doesn't sound like that. It's just a boring song to me. Vendetta. What song is? Oh, it's the other song with the that song is just goofy to me. The verse, melody, that's straight up fucking just dad rock shit. I don't like that song. This Cold Black, is that the song which is like super dark and stuff, and then it has a terribly terribly juxtapositioning chorus, which I don't even remember. Snuff, I also don't like at all. Oh, it's such a beautiful, pretty song. It's fucking generic and just cheesy. It's not, it's boring to me. All Hope Is Gone was a good song. I like that one. I'm pretty sure that All Hope Is Gone was the first song that was released as a single from this album. At least that's the first song I heard. And I liked it because, first of all, Corey's vocals were not terrible. Yeah, they changed, but at least he now did something that he could pull off. It had cool riffs and blast beats and stuff, so yeah. And then there's a Child of Burning Time. I don't know, maybe these are bonus tracks. Child of Burning Time, Till We Die. So yeah, overall, just not a very strong album in my opinion. Some good songs, but it's not what I wanted from Slipknot at that point, or at this point, or at any point. Plus the fact that when it came out, I was too close to my teenage fandom of Slipknot to be comfortable with liking them anymore, probably. So that would be my least favorite studio album that Slipknot released, recorded, whatever. And then, when I had just about given up on Slipknot, after All Hope Is Gone, I thought they were just being like the Snuff Band now and the Dead Memories stuff. And their live show became stale, and their costumes became, instead of just sort of like, it became like, oh, I'm Corey now, I'm wearing fucking skinny jeans, which is fine. I also wear and wore skinny jeans at times. But still, it became more of like a rock show and a rock band. And that's fine, but, what I wanted from Slipknot wasn't that either. So I thought I was over Slipknot, but once you're a Slipknot fan as a teenager, as a 12 or 13-year-old, you're really, after that, you really just gotta, whenever they do something new, you're just kind of tuned in automatically, regardless of the fact if you listen to them frequently anymore or not. Maybe you think you've grown out of it or whatever. Oh, they were just a gateway band. Whatever it is, I hear a lot of people talking about. Regardless, whenever they make some new stuff, you're tuning in because you're interested. And despite me I thought I was done with Slipknot after All Hope Is Gone. When the Great Chapter was announced, of course I had to tune in. Joe Jordison had been fired / he quit the band, which also intrigued me. Because as a kid, Joey was my number one drummer, of course. Mine and many other kids' number one drummer. Not just kids either, but, big ass adult drummers, actual drummers, because he was a fucking good drummer at one point. I'm having difficulties talking here, but bear with me. But as I was saying, his skills were just obviously and blatantly deteriorating throughout the years. So when they let him go or whatever the fuck happened, I was fine with that. I'll take a type performance over just someone's fucking legacy in a band or just being a founding member. I don't care. I'm not sitting with the dude in the room while I'm listening to the song, so I don't fucking care who plays it. Anyway, The Great Chapter was released with a new drummer. I was intrigued. And then I think they released The Negative One was probably the first song that they released off of that album. And fucking that song was the bomb. It was really, really the bomb. It really was. It was such a pleasant surprise for me. Once more, people were complaining. People were complaining about, I don't fucking remember even. People were complaining probably about Corey's vocals again. People were complaining about fucking this or that. But to me, that song had a true vibe of Iowa and the self-titled blended together. It had that creepy, heavy mood. It had. I thought I had to sort of carefully, but very carefully, but slightly optimistically. I was listening to Corey screaming in that song, and I was like, wait, is he doing like the Iowa-ish scream again? Like, is this just like some fucking studio magic where they've, I don't know, like layered his screams on top of each other so they sound like proper again, or is he actually doing this? And I came to realize later on that, yeah, it was sort of like studio magic-y. It's obviously a case of very select vocal takes, because then you look at live performances from that era. Yeah, his voice isn't still not great. in great shape back then. But yeah, it was becoming a return to form for him vocally. So I was very excited about that when I first heard the Negative One. And excuse me, I have the album pulled up here, and then I hit it, and there it is again. But yeah, the music video I could have done without, because that was Clown's just edgy art project again, which is, it didn't serve the music at all for me. But yeah, overall it had like a bouncy new metal chorus. It had like scratching turntable. It had a creepy samples and just like, straight up aggression. And I loved it. I fucking loved it. I thought, yes, hey, cool. I thought I'd given up on Slipknot after the last album. You know, I'd thought they'd just keep going the Dead Memories route and just snuff it all up. But hey, here they are. They're doing heavy stuff again. Arguably the heaviest stuff they've done in since Iowa. Cool. And then the album came out, and I liked it. But a major turnoff for me was the production. The drums just sounded half-baked. I don't know what about. I'm not saying they needed to be like just like deathcore quantized or, you know, Whitechapel compressed, but they still sounded very, very not done production wise. The drums, the drum performances are great, the better than anything Joey had done in years. And also the guitar production was very, very muddy. Like the guitars sounded so buried. There's no, and still I haven't listened to the album in a while, but I recall the guitars being very buried in the mix and just sort of not there. It's basically the entire mix sounds half done. See, and that hampers the album for me. It hamstrings it also. It just like it takes a few notches off the enjoyment factor for me. But overall, it was a great return to form for the band in my opinion. And even though since I'm talking about it now, I'm clearly ranking it one step above All Hope Is Gone. But this is still not a bad album. I think the only bad album, if you want to call it that Slipknot has done is All Hope Is Gone. But this great chapter already, I need to say it at this point, is that I like the album. I really like it. I liked it when it came out. I still like it now. Don't listen to it a lot, but I listened to it quite a lot, surprisingly, when it came out. Something that I thought I wouldn't have done. Let's look at the track list here. XIX. Is that the song with the with my I think it is. Yeah, I probably skipped that song a lot because it doesn't. I've mentioned this quite a few times already during this podcast, but it just doesn't have what I want from Slipknot. So that's a skip for me. But then Sarcastrophe, great song. Great song. It has a lot of similarities with Gematria. Song structure wise, feeling wise, it's very theatrical. It sounds like something that you could really put on for someone that hasn't heard the band before, and you want to impress them with how I don't know how big this band is and how big it sounds. Which, to be fair, Sarcastrophe and Gematria aren't very good indicators of Slipknot sound as a whole, but as standalone tracks, they're very impressive. But again, when I look at the track list and I think of Sarcastrophe, I just feel this like, because this album could be so close to perfection if it wasn't for the production. That really bums me out. Anyway, after Sarcastrophe, you have AOV, another awesome song. It's very good. AOV, The Devil and I. Yeah, it has. It was like that soft single, I think, off this album. At least the only one that I recall at this point. But I still liked it. The music video is cool too. Kill Pop. Oh yeah, Kill Pop was the other soft single off this one. But also a good song, good bass line, good vocals, good chorus. It's just good. Skeptic. Yeah, a good song. I like it. Lech. I like it. Goodbye. Actually, looking at all these tracks, I really, really like all these tracks. There's not a single one that is a skip for me, except for the first track, which is pretty much just an intro to me, and I don't need to listen to 3 minutes of setting the mood for an album that I'll probably listen to on shuffle anyway for bits here and there. But yeah, there's not a single song on here that I skipped back then when I was listening to this album actively, or that I skip now. It's I think, is it Nomadic? Nomadic is so fucking cool. That's probably my favorite song off this album. Really, it has that sample, doesn't it? It says like I don't know what it says. It sounds like the tough guys that came to kill, but stayed to rape and ravage or some shit like that. And then it kicks on into these two crazy guitar solos, just really fucking evil ass sounding guitar solos. I love that, and it has that like goofy almost type of chorus, like almost sing songy. Na 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 rah 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 na na. It's just good. It's good Slipknot. It's really reminiscent of the self-titled album, the first album. So yeah, the Great Chapter was a really good album. And a very, very welcome surprise after the fucking blah. That was I even forget what it's called. All Hope Is Gone. Okay, so to refresh our memories, out of the entire Slipknot discography, excluding Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat, we've gone through 9.0, which is trash. All Hope Is Gone, which is the worst out of the studio albums. It's not good. Then we went into the Great Chapter. So the remaining albums on my list would be the self-titled album, Iowa, Volume 3, and We Are Not Your Kind. And I bet you know where I'm headed next, because I mean we have 3 classic albums and the latest one left, so I wonder which is the fucking worst one after a Great Chapter. It's and you're fucking wrong, because it's not We Are Not Your Kind. No, in my list, Volume 3 is the next one up, and let me tell you why. Because I know that it's a classic album at this point, but hear me out here. So my height. Or the height of my Slipknot fandom happened around 2002 to 2003. I was a massive fan back then. Iowa and the self-titled album were my life. I would listen to those albums on repeat, just fucking over and over again. It was therapeutic for me. It was. I'll get into it more when I actually discuss those albums, but. Watching the Disaster Pieces DVD, just everything like about Slipknot was so dark and grimy and gritty and disgusting, and it spoke to me on such a deep level. I was a kid with a million different anxieties. I had no outlet for it back then. I couldn't express myself. I couldn't talk about anything to anyone regarding that. I was a fucking mess when it came to that. But those albums really just to help me deal with a lot of stuff that young kids need help dealing with. I mean, when you have someone who is so into the Iowa aesthetic of the band and the Iowa, both sonic and visual aesthetic of Iowa, when you have something that worships that, when you drop Volume 3 on a person like that, they are not going to like it. And that's what happened to me. I was let's see now. When was Volume 3 was released 2004. And I actually saw Slipknot twice during or in 2004. And that was the first time I saw them and the last time I saw them. So yeah, it's funny. I've seen Slipknot twice, and and both times were in 2004, which is arguably my least favorite era of the band. Sort of. Well, anyway, so I was riding high on the Iowa hype still in 2004 when I first saw them, and this was before they released Volume 3. I had bought the Duality single. It came out in, I want to say April maybe of 2004. I bought that single, listened to it a bunch. Yeah, it was fine. I had to love it because it was a new Slipknot single, and I, on some level, I knew that okay, it's not my favorite song by them, but okay, they're releasing a single like this, and there's a whole album still worth of songs that will probably be the best songs ever. So I had the Duality single, and I went to see them live. They were opening up for Metallica. It was mind bending and mind boggling and were earth shattering for me to see these people in the flesh in front of me. I had shitty seats at a stadium, at like a soccer stadium or something, and I was sitting high up and then at the side there, but I was actually like right by the side of the stage actually. So I could have had way worse seats actually. I was there with my older sister and I remember when I saw them walk out on stage, it was just magic. I could not fucking believe my eyes. I was 15 or 16. I was 15 back then, and it was I'm seeing the manifestation of my worship in front of me. Wow, and that was mind blowing. And I came out of that show just being like, wow, holy fuck! I have just witnessed creation itself. So that was the level of hype that I was at, and they played a bunch of new songs in that show. During that show, they at least I remember them playing "The Blister Exists," although I did not know the song at the time. The marching snare part in the middle stuck with me. Of course, I recognized that part later on when I was listening to the album, so I knew that they played that song at least, and probably some other new ones as well. Didn't have a long set, but anyway. So I came out from that show being still the biggest Slipknot fan on the planet. And then they released Volume 3 in the summer sometime. I can't remember when exactly, but I know for a fact that I was visiting my sister in her hometown where she lived at the time. And when the album came out, me and her went to the record store and I bought the album and I was so fucking excited. I had my Discman with me. My portable CD player. For those of you who don't know what the fuck that is, tiny little, actually a big ass. Well, it's the size of a CD and then some. It's just a fucking portable CD player. Of course, you know what that is. So I bought the album. I had my Discman, my Walkman, whatever the fuck it was, and I had to follow my sister to her university, where she sat at the computer and did some university stuff. So I unboxed the CD. I opened it up, opened the case, sniffed through the fucking pamphlet, probably sniffed at it, looked at it, read stuff, put the album in my CD player and sat there just like totally absorbing it in. And my first reaction was because up until that point, the opening tracks to Slipknot's albums had been the opener on the self-titled, which is the whole thing I think is sick, and then 515 on Iowa. So I was expecting something like that. And when I didn't get that, I felt sort of cheated. I felt like, what the fuck? They can't break this streak now. They can't break this tradition of 2 albums in a row. You open up the album with just weird fucking noise. I can't fucking, what the fuck? I felt like I'd been cheated out of an actual opening track, which is just an intro fucking noise loop, basically. But I felt like that was missing. I was like, what the fuck is this? And then then the song started, Prelude 3.0. And I sat there and I remember I just wanted fucking anger. I just wanted all this anxiety and the ugliness of Iowa and basically where I was still at in my head. I just wanted more of a manifestation of that I could channel my feelings into. And what I got was fucking like Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie ass fucking, I don't know why. And it was still fine. It was still a good song. I liked it. And then, of course, after that song, When the Blister Exists kicked in, I was like, yes, this is a song that they played. And I still fucking love that song, especially the intro. There's something so powerful about that intro. And then when it goes to 1, 2, 3, that is so fucking cool. That riff is baller. So yeah. I had a slight woof, maybe this album's bad reaction to the first song. But then The Blister Exists came in and it saved the album. And then, I sat there listening to the album and 3-0 comes next. And it's a fucking brutal song as well. And then Duality, which I was familiar at that point with already. And then Opium of the People. And it's just pretty much like bangers right out the gate. And also something that I was really, really, really pleasantly surprised by was the guitar solos, because here I am, I'm like, man, I'm a fan of this band, but I can't vouch for either guitar player's capabilities really, And mind you, prior to being a huge Slipknot fan, I was a huge instrumental music fan. Steve Vai, I listened to nothing but like Steve Vai and Joe Satriani for a year or two. I actually met them when I was like 13 or something. I was a big ass fan. So I was really into like virtuoso level guitar playing. Just, yeah, as I said, I'd listen fucking like to 2 years for nothing but virtuoso level guitar playing in the form of songs and albums. So I felt sort of guilty for liking a band that had just really simplistic riffs. And whenever, I'd show my guitarist friend and be like, hey, check this out. And he's like, the guitarists suck. Probably they can't play anything. So then for the first time ever, when Slipknot included solos, I was like, yes, fuck yeah, they're shredding. And that was the best part of the album. The entire album probably for me back then was the fact that they finally shredded. Yeah, the solos are not great on the album, but at least they proved they can shred, which is like back then for me, it's like, yeah, that's all we really need. Yeah, just as long as you prove that you can fucking shred and sweep and shit, then you're set. But yeah, I'm having a fucking stroke again. Opium of the People. I like that song. I actually love it. And then Circle. Now, Circle was a way better version of the Prelude song than the Prelude itself, because Circle, despite it being way more mellow and chill than Prelude 3.0, I liked Circle way more because that one, I understood that. It's like, how do you really disturb someone that's into Iowa? Well, you toss fucking Circle at them. Bam. And that song is just like, it's so bare bones and just, yeah, it's really unnerving to listen to, really. At least back then, when you didn't know, you had never heard them do this sound before. You're like, whoa, you felt this like unease of, oh, this is gonna go bad. This is gonna go bad at any second. But they pulled it through. And that ending part of Circle, when it goes to the weird electronic drum loop, that is probably my favorite part of the entire fucking album. It's so creepy and weird and unsettling. And then Welcome is a super underrated song that none of my friends liked. They were like, fuck Welcome. I was like, what? How can you say fuck Welcome? That has probably, I think, the fastest double bass sections on the album, and it has the best solo. Mick's solo sucks on it, but Jim Root's solo, wow, I love it. I fucking love it. It starts off with a wah, wow, and it goes into a super fast, cool legato lick, and ends in that beautiful wide vibrato with a wah. It's perfect. It's probably the most looped section of this entire album for me. So yeah, Vermilion, good song, good solo. It's a good song. Pulse of the Maggots. Pulse of the Maggots is a song that I never liked. It's just too cheesy for me. I never liked it. Even back then, it was not good. Before I Forget, I was also never really into, because it's also like Pulse of the Maggots and Before I Forget is just like too dad for me. And even back then, even as a 15-year-old super Slipknot fan, those songs were too like not aggressive enough and not anything enough for me. Vermilion Part 2, that was more of the Circle vibe that I got. I was like, holy shit, these guys are doing this? Wow, that's disturbing to me. The Nameless, really cool song. The Virus of Life, it was a slow burner for me, but I finally got into the song. Danger, Keep Away, also like that one. So in essence, the slow cuts, the instrument, not instrumental, but the acoustic cuts on this album were really good and were really effective to me back then. I liked them, but to me, the reason why I rate this album lower than, say, We Are Not Your Kind, is because to me, this album marked the departure from what I really loved and worshipped about the band in the first place. This was a really, really hard left from where they were going up until Iowa. You know, I thought I was on the trajectory. I joined the band on its journey, and I thought I knew where it was going, and I was in for the ride because I loved it. And then all of a sudden, it's like, no, we're just gonna do this instead. And I was disappointed. And for them to actually manage to sort of bum out a huge fan who's 15 years old, who has been a huge fan for like 2 years, 3 years, however long, for them to manage to sort of like for the first time shatter that foundation of just blind band worship, that means that they sort of failed with this album, in my perspective, in my opinion. So that's why I rate this album lower than We Are Not Your Kind. Even though, I like this album, but still, it's not. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't have the aggression of the first two, and it doesn't have the finesse of the later albums. So that's why this one's not up there. But next up, we're moving into new territory. So let's once again refresh our memories here, and let me refresh mine because I don't have a fucking clue where we're at. Okay, so the worst album, 9.0. Next up, All Hope Is Gone. Then Great Chapter. Then Volume 3. And then, now we have 3 albums left. Self-titled, Iowa, and We Are Not Your Kind. And guess what? Now this time you're right. It's We Are Not Your Kind. And what can I say? What can I really say? It's a good album. It's a great album. It had a really bumpy start for me because I was on tour with my band, Medea, in Europe, when Unsainted was released as the first single. I was sitting in the van, and I don't know. It's really, at that point, it had been 5 years since the Great Chapter was released. And although I told you that I really liked the album, it didn't really leave that big of a lasting impression on me. So the next time that Slipknot would be coming around, they would really have to to grab me once again. Sort of like they've had to have done for the past 5 years or so, 10 years. I don't fucking what is time anymore? I don't know. It's hard for me. So when I was sitting there in my van, sort of probably just listening to podcasts and weird German hip hop and not being even in the mood to be properly receptive to a new Slipknot single, I put on Unsainted, and I was just for the first. First off, the production to me turned me off because to me back then it really just in the van with my fucking headphones on, it really just sounded like a continuation of the Great Chapter, and that was a huge bum out for me. Because I thought, fuck, the biggest flaw of the Great Chapter was the production, and they haven't fixed it. Later on, I realized when I listened to the albums back to back, and I switched back and forth that, the production is similar. Only on We Are Not Your Kind, it's actually good. The production's fine. It's like what I was saying about the production on the Great Chapter being half baked or whatever. Not done, not finished. On We Are Not Your Kind, it sounds a lot better. It sounds baked. It sounds finished on that one. But yeah, as I was sitting there listening to Unsainted, it was a very cookie cutter Slipknot song to me. It didn't leave a lasting impression on me. It had all the parts. It had the Corey fucking verse vocals. It had the singing chorus. It even had the blast beat part, which they now. That part was just to me, that was straight up lifted out of The Devil and I. It had the exact same structure to me, I felt, and the same effect that it was there for. And it was just, I was underwhelmed by Unsainted. So fast forward, so if this was May, maybe they released the album in August. I want to say August or something. They released the album in August, and I hadn't listened to any other tracks because I honestly just wanted to save the entirety of the album for that first listen through, because I was still optimistic. They managed to come back in a big way after All Hope Is Gone with the Great Chapter. So I was optimistic. I was thinking, they continue on this path, it's only going to get better. And I knew that Corey's vocals were also better because he'd been doing some really tight Stone Sour stuff. Meanwhile, after the Great Chapter. So anyway, yeah, the album was released, and then one day when me and a friend were driving back from some party, the morning after, me and Andre, who actually I made the real time reaction review, whatever the fuck those videos were called, back in 2016, I think. We did Gojira, Magma, and Neurosis, Fires Within Fires, and we recorded and shot a one for the Dillinger Escape Plan, the last album, but that one got caught in editing hell for me, and I lost the files when my fucking computer shit the bed. But so yeah, we were making a series, and the series just stopped, and then life got in the way and blah blah. But but we still listen to music together. So on that drive, it was like an hour-long drive, and we thought, okay, hey, fuck it, let's put on the new Slipknot album, because we both of us are huge Slipknot fans from back then. He was actually the guy that properly introduced me to Slipknot, but we'll get into that later as well. So okay, here we have two 30-year-olds who are who have been fans of the band for, I want to say 17, 18 years or something. Or shall we say also that 17 or 18 years ago, this band was like a unifying force in their life, and really just something majestic. So we put on the new album, and Insert Coin is the first song, and I really liked it off the bat. I thought that, yeah, fuck yeah, now we have something that's more similar to 515 and the whole thing I think it's sick vibe, which is like it's not a song, it's more of a soundscape, which is, I was immediately on board for that. It's like, yeah, it's artsy, but fucking whatever, let them do their art. And then Unsainted came on, and I was already familiar with the song at that point. So I just sort of let it pass. And then Birth of the Cruel, I really liked it. Really, really liked it. I had a great fucking vibe when I was sitting there in the car, and it sounded really good. Fucking attitude. The sort of like attitude that I hadn't heard from them in a while, I felt like. And then Death, because of that, mind you, we're sitting there hungover in the car, listening to, not the greatest quality car stereo, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? But every time I felt this, like, what the fuck? It was 100% positive, because the last album was so straightforward. The Great Chapter was so straightforward. It was like similar song after similar song after similar song. And the production on all the songs were like the same thing. And so this one, whenever a weird interlude or shit kicked in, it was like, wow, okay, they're doing cool stuff. And then Nero Forte, when that song came out on the car, it was like, yeah, fuck yeah, okay, this is fucking great. Like, that was an instant hit for me, especially. I really, really fucking loved it. Then Critical Darling, it was, that one, so it's like, it was a passable song. And then A Liar's Funeral, we go into Red Flag, and as we're driving there, we go into What's Next, and then Spiders, and Orphan, and My Pain, and eventually the rest of the album, I think. And by the way, Solway Firth I had heard prior to the release of the album, way after Unsainted, but before the release of the actual album, and I loved Solway Firth. That was probably my favorite Slipknot song that I'd heard in many, many years. So that's also a reason why I was optimistic about this album, because I'd heard that song. It's like, fuck yeah, okay, finally, there's some truth behind the claim that, heavier than Iowa. They've been saying fucking heavier than Iowa on every fucking thing that they've done musically since Iowa. It's like, whether it's a Stone Sour album, whether it's a Slipknot album, whether it's fucking like Sid Wilson fucking scratching a Transformers scratch fucking session with fucking, what's his name, Be Real, and his Smokebox cars. Like, it's heavier than Iowa. This time, Solway Firth actually, arguably heavier than Iowa. But as we were sitting there in the car, hungover, it just felt like we kept getting interrupted by these interludes and these silences and these long pauses after songs. It felt like, oh, come on, just fucking like we sit there and the song ends, and we look at the car stereo, and it's it's in a reverse time thing where it shows how much of the track is left, and we're sitting there and say the track has ended like a minute ago, and it's counting down, and we're like, fucking, is this just gonna be like nothing noise for like a minute? Like, you could have made more music and have less of this padding. And then the next song starts, and it doesn't even start right off the bat. It's like a minute of intro building noise soundscapes and stuff, and you're like, fuck, more music, fucking come on. Like, this is taken away from the actual album, the actual songs. When you fucking, okay, you can have a fucking 70-minute album, but if you have fucking 1 minute intro and 1 minute outro fucking sound experiments on every track, that's 40 minutes of fucking music or something. So that really got annoying for us in the car, because granted, we were not very receptive, and we've already like been sitting there listening, and then we started talking, and then we started like missing songs and stuff. So eventually, of course, it all starts blending together. But that's like something that we got annoyed by. But as I got home and later on, I listened to the album on my own with my headphones. I really fell in love with the just, you know what I'm talking about. If you've listened to the album, these soundscapes, the intros, the outros, the just like the dark, grimy, and for the first time since Iowa, I felt like they tapped into that darkness. Especially the song "My Pain." My Pain is the first time that I've felt uncomfortable listening to a Slipknot song since Iowa, since I was like 14 or whatever, listening to Iowa. This was the first time since then that I've felt like uncomfortable in a great way, uncomfortable in a way that moves me. My Pain, the way it's just, it's I can't describe it. It's what they were going for. Clearly, and it's not the fact that there's a creepy glockenspiel, that part I could do without, but it's just the way the song builds and stuff. And then there's this really it gives me goosebumps. The right at the end of the song, I think, when there's a sample or a sound of a rope, it sounds like you're not stretching a rope, but like doing that with a rope, and it's nasty imagery, audio imagery. It's fucked up. But yeah, I really, and then yeah, I forget where I'm at in this rant, but overall, I really fucking love "We Are Not Your Kind." It's not so much because the songs are all great. For example, like there's a handful of songs on here that I really don't care about, like "Unsainted." What else do we have? Spiders. I get what they were doing with Spiders, but it's not, I listen to weird shit. And when I want to listen to weird shit, I listen to actual weird shit. And Spiders just sounds like, it sounds like a band that doesn't play weird shit thinking, let's make a weird shit song, and they make a song which is like, it's creepy, bleh. And it's just, it's like a fucking haunted house vibe that I could really do without. But yeah, other than that, I mean, this album was truly close to Iowa in terms of heaviness and in terms of just fucking. I don't even think that I've listened to the album enough yet to give an actual verdict or. The real judgment of the album, because I've listened to it a lot and then I've taken breaks, and at this point I'm not feeling going back to listen to it, but I know that I will in the future again return to this album and give it a lots more listening, because looking at the track list now I'm like, fuck, I really want to listen to My Pain now. I really want to fucking listen to Orphan now. Like this album still pulls me in. Looking at this track list, I'm like, hell yeah, I want to go back into that song. I want to hear that shit again. Oh, and that song, that has that cool part, which there's 0% of that when I look at the track list for All Hope Is Gone. When I look at the track list for All Hope Is Gone, I'm like, fuck this shit. God. Anyway, so yeah, this is a fucking really good album. I think I'm going to put this one on after I'm done with this shit, maybe. And next up, the reveal. Which is my favorite album? Is it the self-titled album or is it the Iowa album? It's the Iowa album. Everyone knows that. Iowa is my favorite one. Well, let's fucking talk about the self-titled album first. So, I think a big part of the reason why it's not even a contest for me between the self-titled album and Iowa is because I heard Iowa first. Granted, yeah, I think I was familiar with Wait and Bleed, the track, before I'd heard Iowa. I'd seen the video on TV. I remember being like, what the fuck is this shit? But I got into Iowa big time. And then after that, being a fan of Iowa, I went back and acquired this album and listened to this one. And with those eyes and ears that I had at the time, this was just very much a proto version of what I loved about the band in the Iowa era, which is, completely normal. This was like fucking getting GTA 5 and then being a fan of that game and then going back to GTA 4. Probably not, because, there was nothing that was fucking bad on the self-titled album. And nothing that was like worse on the self-titled album compared to Iowa. It was just different. So that fucking analogy was bad. The video game one because it doesn't really work. Because you can't compare fucking video games the way you compare albums. Just because. Anyway, fucking maybe it makes sense. I don't know, but yeah. I mean, well, arguably the costumes were just fucking straight up worse during the first album, and just straight up better during Iowa. But anyway, so musically, being accustomed to Iowa, when I then went back to listen to this album, this album still to me, this album feels like one long song. Really, there's so many similarities. Excluding Spit It Out, which is jarring in the way that it sounds different production wise, because I think that was from a demo recording session or something earlier on, or before they recorded this album, which is also weird because in a lot of ways I always thought that Spit It Out on this album sounded better than the rest of the songs, especially the drums or the drum production, because the snare on this album is fucking weird. I don't know. But to this day, there to me has not been a raw album. This album is so damn raw. Everything about this album is raw. Corey's performance, raw. The lyrics, raw. The production, raw. The riffs, raw. The songs, raw. The drums, raw. So it's just this album is just like a fucking fuck. I mean, fucking. I don't even know what to say about this album really, because this was like whenever I was taking a break from Iowa, I would put this album on, and it was just like, to me, an inferior version of the band, which I was obsessed with at that time. So let's just go through the track list here. The fucking Barcode song, the whole thing I think is sick. I mean, clearly that is a better intro track than 515, but 515 was cool, but this one's iconic. Sick. Fucking this song, it's flawless. Eyeless is flawless. Flawless Eyeless. Wait and Bleed, flawless. Surfacing. It's honestly not a great song. I was never a fan of the verse parts because they felt very like tacked on and stuff, but it has that cool riff in the middle there, plus super fast kick drums, so it's good. Spit It Out, I was always a fan of that one. Tattered and Torn, I was never a fan of because it's just, it doesn't flow well, and it's not very jammable. Purity wasn't on my copy of the album. Instead, I had Me Inside, which Me Inside was probably my favorite song. Well, one of the favorite songs on the album. Because is that also because it has like super fast kick drums on it? Maybe that's how I fucking judged songs back then. I think actually very much that's how I judged whether a song is good or bad, whether a band is good or bad. Is the drumming fucking crazy? If it is, then yes, it's good. Liberate, classic. Prosthetics, yeah. Prosthetics, I like that song. Always loved it. No Life, fucking great. It's just fun. There's so much fun on this album, which is weird because it's not really fun, but there's so many fun aspects to this album. It's so weird. Deluded, that's not fun, but it's fucking good. Only One, super fun. Scissors, not very fun. Songs sort of drawn out, and then there's vomiting and shit. And then Eeyore, holy fuck, Eeyore, the greatest. But so yeah, anyway, I it's hard for me to really go into detail about these songs or this album as a whole because, as I said, it's the only album that I have gone back to at the peak of my fandom. So it was always on the back burner for me. I never had full interest in this album, although I've listened to it so much. As I stated earlier, before Volume 3, I had these two albums, and these two albums were what I was listening to day in and day out. So yeah, but yeah, just this album has to be a number 2 for me. In which album is the best. I think I've only been saying which is the worst one. Well, now I'm turning it around and saying which is the best one, and this is the second best because you can't fucking come on. It is a great album. fucking still. The drumming, especially the drumming. I fucking dare you. There's so many fucking people out there who think they know their shit and they're like, Joey Jordison sucks. He was never good. Oh, he's overrated. Yeah. Arguably, yeah, he's fucking overrated if you compare him to all the fucking drummers out there that I never mentioned anywhere. Especially back then when, he was fucking Joey was getting sponsorships and he was a big deal. He was like hailed as the biggest, greatest drummer in the world. Was not the case. But, I dare fucking anyone who says that he sucks, he's always been overrated, go fucking back and listen to this album, the fucking self-titled album. These drum parts are fucking crazy. And they're so tight. And you hear every single note that you hear, the production adds to, you hear the fucking aggression and the velocity of his drumming. Not to mention the creativity of his composing of the drum parts on this album is parallel. Joey never ever surpassed his performance on this album. Iowa was not even close to the amount of fucking insanity that he brought to this album. So yeah, fucking Christ. But oh man, where do I even start with Iowa? Yeah, Iowa is my favorite Slipknot album of all time, bar none, hands down, by far. No contest. Where do I even start? I should probably start with how I got acquainted with this album in the first place and the band. Well, I've actually made a YouTube video about this, so if you're interested, I go in depth and talk about, well, this very subject. In fact, I think I uploaded the video in 2016. That was the 15th anniversary year for the album. And I commemorated it by making a video where I talk about it at length. Not really the album itself or the music, but the impact it had on me in my life and what was going on at that point in my life and why it became such a huge deal for me and probably many else. But I'll go briefly into it now. I was in sixth grade probably, and I came home from school one day and I put on the TV and I saw this fucking music video for which I now know is Left Behind, by this band, which is really weird looking. They had masks and there was blood and brains and stuff and the clown's mask, and it was just unpleasant, and the music was tight. It was aggressive and melodic and raw, and I loved it. The drumming was crazy, and I went to school the next day and I asked my friend, hey, did you catch that music video yesterday with the crazy band with the masks? And he was like, fuck yeah, I did, man. Wow. And then we were talking about how cool it is. Like, there were like fucking 20 guys in that band. What the fuck? Yeah, and they all had like masks. Were they masks or are they the guys monsters? Why would they be like that? What the fuck would you? And then, we'd sneak into the library and whatever and onto the computer there, and we'd Google the band name Slipknot, and we'd come across like just fragments of information, because this was like 2001. So, the internet was garbage. And good luck finding any footage or anything. There wasn't YouTube. There wasn't social media. There was nothing. There was fucking like news articles and fucking bands' homepages, shit like that. And so we were just mesmerized about, what the fuck was that? It's so cool. And before even I'd heard the album, or before I'd ever again heard a song from Slipknot, after seeing that music video for Left Behind on TV, I was deep into the band by just from Googling images and seeing their masks and their promo shots, and I was like just so mesmerized. It was so fucking cool to me. I've always loved bad guys. And when I say bad guys, I mean I've always loved the bad guys in movies, in fiction, in fairy tales. I never liked the good guys. I always wanted to be the vampire or the ghost or the werewolf or the orc or whatever. I was always into the guys with the demons and the red eyes and fangs and big teeth and shit. That was my jam. And so seeing a band that just manifested itself as this image, it was so freaking inspirational and curious to me. So anyway, fast forward, I don't know how much, but one day I come to school and my friend has the Iowa album and he's brought it with him, and he shows me it. He's like, look, check this out. I bought this album. I was like, what, really? Have you listened to it? And he's like, yeah. It's fucking sick, man. And then, you know, I take the case and I take the pamphlet out and I look through it, and it's weird and it's gross, and I look at the song titles, I look at the photo, I smell remember the ones of you that have the Iowa actual CD, or at least back then it had that sort of like gross, what is it, like butter paper? I don't know what it's called. Like this is almost translucent, really flappy and like really thin paper that makes a weird noise when you wiggle it around and stuff, and it was just gross. Like it was not attractive at all, and I loved it. The whole packaging of the CD booklet in itself, and then so yeah, and then we would just, I mean, we were just mesmerized by the whole thing at that point, and we would listen to the album, and we would read the lyrics, and we would just, you know, straight up. And then one day we had in music class, we had it's called Levyurati in Finnish, because I am Finnish and I am in Finland and I've always been here. It's basically you bring a CD to school. Back then you brought a CD to school and you said, okay, play track 2, and then every kid brings their own CD to school, and then the rest of the class sits there listening to a song that the person chose. So my friend brought Iowa to this class, and me and him and a third friend, we all played a song off of this album. I played Left Behind. My friend who owned the album played People Equal Shit, or the Heretic Anthem. And then the third friend played People Equal Shit or the Heretic Anthem. Anyway, so we exposed our teacher to Left Behind, which was fine, and then People Equal Shit and the Heretic Anthem. Now, this fucking music teacher, I also go in depth about this in that video that I made for the 15th anniversary about Iowa, or for Iowa on YouTube. This teacher of ours was garbage. She was also our religion teacher, which fucking, and she straight up shamed us. She called our music taste shit. She shit on the band. She shit on everything that we and the music itself stood for. And she actually, after the class, she downgraded my the friend of mine who owned the CD and brought it to school. She fucking, what's it called? She basically 2 whole grades. What the fuck is it called? For example, he had an 8 in music, and she fucking reduced his grade to a 6. So 2 full grades based on the fact that he brought this abomination that is Iowa to school. And that, of course, to us, what were we, like 13 years old? Of course, to us, that just meant that we were into some deep shit. We were into like the truth and the fucking man and the teacher and the fucking garbage religion shit. They're going to try to keep us down, and fuck you, we're rebels, and it's the fucking literal story behind the album is being the nonconformist and being the victim and being the rebel. And here we are listening to this fucking album and being treated the way that this album describes us being. You know, it was perfect. So of course we were like the number 1 target audience. So that was my introduction to this album. And then I actually just like within the next year or so, I actually sat down and started listening to the album. And I still remember when I first borrowed this album from my friend and sat down and listened to it, I had anxiety. It was fucked up. I woke up in the night after listening to this album in the evening, and I had I specifically still remember, I had the part in Everything Ends, the Everything Ends chorus, when Corey goes, "This is the end of everything. You are the end of everything." And then there's a bass line. It goes up like an octave. That part was playing on loop in my head. And I was like, fuck, it's so good. I can't even sleep. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking of it. But yeah, this album is monumental for me, and always was. It had an impact on me. And I think it's cool that an album such as this one has actual concrete history for me. It impacted my life in many ways. It's not just like, it's not like music is nowadays for me, where I sit at the fucking computer and I scroll Spotify and I click an artist, and then I click a song, and then I sit here and then I nod to myself and I go, yeah, I could listen to this tomorrow. And then I get up the next day tomorrow, fucking preparing, to go to work, and then I put on this shit from Spotify, and it's just like background music. Back then, granted, I was also fucking like 20 years younger, but back then, there was this album had like a lore to us, me and my friends, and it was like a fucking plot point in our lives, and we got shunned for it, and our grades got affected by it, and it was like just a huge fucking thing. And it's so cool, I guess it's part of being a kid. But anyway, I don't even think I'm going to go into, because this fucking podcast has gone on for over an hour, way over an hour now. So I'm not even going to go into the songs on Iowa, really, and start like analyzing this stuff, because it's to me, this album is just, I listen to it regularly. Still, to this day, I listen to this album regularly, and it's the only Slipknot album that I listen to regularly, because when I really feel like listening to Iowa, there is nothing else that cuts it. There is no fucking other album that matches what Iowa does. The level of darkness and intensity and just guttural feeling. And I think if you've made it this far into the podcast, you know what I'm talking about. To quote the ultimate Slayer fan, you know. You know what? You're thinking, you can deal. Slayer! Anyway, I think this concludes my rant about the Slipknot albums. Made, Feed, Kill, Repeat. It's fun. It sucks, and it's sort of cringy, but it's fun. No, it doesn't suck. It's fun and cringy and good. Oh yeah, that's my verdict on that fucking album. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the first episode of my podcast, the first actual episode, where I was going to go into more stuff. I was going to talk about more stuff. I was fearing that, oh man, if I just talk about Slipknot albums, that's just going to be like for 20 minutes, and I want this to be at least 45 minutes. Well, fucking lo and behold, and to once more quote Zach Bagans, be lo and behold, I'm fucking way over an hour already. So here, to play us out, Wheelchair Warfare by me and Huddy. We had a band called Human Ashtray. I think we released a song on YouTube in like 2012. Human Ashtray, yeah, that's me on programmed drums and me on 2 guitars and no bass because we fucking couldn't be bothered, and on some vocals, and then there's Harder on the rest of the vocals. And this song is basically about a guy in a wheelchair who has weird sexual and creepy rape and killing fantasies, and the song is fucking terrible, and it's a joke, and we did it drunk, but it's definitely fucking worthy of playing us out this first podcast episode. So hello everybody, and take you later, check me out later. Okay, hey, what the fuck do you want to hear in the next episode? Do you want more band fucking discography rundowns? Do you want me to talk about less stuff? Do you want me just not to talk about and wheelchair warfare?